Hello, I'm Caroline Fairchild, and welcome to LinkedIn News Live, where the business conversation begins with you. Companies are having to be more creative as well as generous with their benefits as more and more employees are acknowledging their worth and becoming more selective with their job choices. Salaries are important, but so are other perks that come with the benefits package. My next two guests are making education just one of the many ways that they're hoping to retain top talent. Joining me now is Tamala Oates Forney. She's the SVP and Chief People Officer at Waste Management. Prior to that, she held roles at Summit Materials and GE Energy Connections. She got her Bachelor of Science from the UNC Keenan Flaggard School of Business. Tamala, thanks so much for joining us on LinkedIn News Live.
Thank you so much for having me.
And joining us in this discussion is Chris Gaddis. He has had multiple roles at JBS. He's the head of HR at the food manufacturer and got his BA as well as his JD at the University of Colorado Boulder. Chris, welcome to LinkedIn News Live.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, it's so great to be with both of you, and I've been looking forward to this discussion. Let's just start with the basics. Chris, I'll start with you. How has the pandemic changed how your company has thought about benefits, how it's thought about what it needs to do in order to remain competitive in this very tight labor market?
Yeah, I think the pandemic has reinforced the importance of blocking and tackling in the recruitment and retention game. You know, the last line of our mission statement talks about creating the opportunity of a better future for our team members. And the pandemic has really challenged us to think about how do we do that in a tangible way for our employees. You couple that with an increasingly competitive labor market, and you see a lot of ideas that maybe 5 years ago would have been great ideas but never enacted, being enacted. And that's the case at JBS. That's a case at a number of food manufacturers. So I think ultimately it's been a very important, very employee affirming event or series of events that the pandemic has given rise to. And looking at the landscape, looking at waste management, for example, you see some of the great examples of things employers are doing.
Tamala, I'd love to hear more about those great things. Chris was talking to us in the pre-show about you have been quoted in a lot of the similar articles. So what's happening over there?
I got to tell you, the pandemic has really accelerated the future of work. We used to study the future of work. Now the future of work is here. So the worker, and the workplace are all evolving, and workers are having more leverage or more say in terms of what the workplace is going to become. And so as an employer, we have to do things to make our company the employer of choice in the realm of so many other employers. And so what we're doing is really elevating our EVP. We're talking about the value of our culture, right? The value of the colleagues that you work with and you work for, the value of our total rewards package. Those things are important. Really being more deliberate about career opportunities, the content of your job, the types of jobs you're working, and the contributions that we're making to leave the world better than we found it. So we are being very intentional about communicating the value of a WM job that far exceeds that of a paycheck. And so one of the things we've done this year is we launched what we're calling our Your Tomorrow program. And it is a debt-free education program whereby our employees can get a debt-free education, be it high school, associate's degree, bachelor's or master's degree, certifications, et cetera, all paid for by the company. It's a great partnership with Guild Education. And not only are we providing this benefit for our employees, but beginning January 2022, it will be something that our employees' families, their dependents will be eligible for. So that is changing the game for us as an employer of choice.
Tamala, let's break down that program a little bit because this is a pretty astonishing effort by Waste Management. 36,000 employees, fully funded programs, including the bachelors that you just mentioned. Why was this a benefit that you started? Forgive me, what year was it that you started this partnership?
We actually started it this year, but we had already had the partnership already solidified with Guild prior to COVID, because we have been studying the future of work and looking at, the demand for the types of workers that we hire, including drivers and technicians. And we understood that the supply and the demand was becoming even more imbalanced than ever before. And we had to do something to not only make Waste Management an attractive employer, but once they got here, how did we equip our employees with the tools that they need in order to do other things? So you may come in as a helper, a driver, a technician, but but there is nothing that you can't do in this company. We wanted to equip our employees with the tools that they needed to do whatever they and be whatever they wanted to be. And so every time I would go to a town hall, employees would ask, when are we getting back our tuition reimbursement program? So the employees were asking for this particular benefit, but we exceeded their expectation, because unlike a tuition reimbursement program, they don't have to pay for anything up front. We pay for all of that. And because we partner with Guild Education, they manage the program for us. They get an educational coach, and the coach helps them to determine what type of educational benefit they should be engaged in. And they help them figure that out. And we pay for all of that. And so again, we had this in play prior to the pandemic, but we did hold until after the pandemic, because we needed to understand what, kind of the market was going to look like, what the labor landscape was going to look like. So we launched it in April of this year, and it's been overwhelmingly successful. To your point, 36,000 of our employees in the US, because we have employees in Canada and India, but 36,000 of our employees in the US plus 34,000 of their dependents will be eligible for this great benefit.
That's such an astonishing effort. And I'm seeing so many people in this stream joining us, Chris and Tamla. We have Patrick from Florida, Stacy from Texas, Carla from Washington, D.C., all saying hello to both of you. Jill says the best way to treat people right, don't ghost them and have open lines of communication. James says it's pretty simple, really, pay better and better incentives. So Chris, I'll go to you with James's comment. I know that JBS is offering free 2-year college tuition to your 60,000 plus employees. What was it like to get that effort off the ground, and how is your program different than, say, what's going on with waste management?
Sure. First of all, to the comment about wages, none of this matters if your wages aren't right. And so in our organization over the last 5 years, we've raised wages in some facilities 50, 60%, when Bureau of Labor Statistics would say that the average for manufacturing is about 15% over that same period. So you have to pay right. You also have to provide your team members with the opportunity for career growth. Like Tamla said, there's no one who enters our company that doesn't have limitless potential in terms of where they can go. Just in 2022, this coming year, we plan to promote 400 hourly production team members into supervisory roles through our supervisor development program. So you've got to pay right, you've got to offer a career proposition, and then you get to this idea, what else can we do? And for that, it's this idea of personal and community development. As with the waste management program, our program, Better Futures, is the largest free community college program in rural America. We're in agriculture. The vast majority of our facilities reside in rural areas where these types of opportunities are even more limited than they would be in urban areas. And so we're trying to lift the community while also lifting our team members and their dependents. Our program's pretty simple. Any of our team members or their dependents will receive, if they're with us for a period of time, which today's 6 months, will receive the opportunity to have free community college education. Those who are unable to get into community college, either by virtue of a lack of English language skills or GED, can get those English language skills or GED training online free of charge as well, to prep them to join our Better Futures program. And all of it is subsumed. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I wanted to jump in a little bit, because it's so interesting to hear about the training that you're doing to make sure that those frontline workers can get to that first manager position, that first step up, because there's so much data out there from McKinsey and other sources that say that that's really the hardest step, is once you make it to that first manager position, that's really where you can achieve more in your career. What are you doing over at JBS to make sure that that happens for more people, for more diverse populations?
Yeah, so Caroline, our hourly production population has historically been largely first and second generation Americans, refugees, and asylees. And that's a very diverse population that entails a lot of different complexity. A lot of our team members, for example, have not gone through cultural integration. have not learned the language, don't understand the US financial system. And so we have to put in place a series of trainings to equip them, not just to go to college, but to equip them to operate safely and effectively and to thrive in the communities in which we do business. So from there, then, we've got a number of success stories. We have 2,000 people signed up for Better Futures right now. And a lot of those people are either first, second generation Americans themselves, or are the children of first and second generation Americans or refugees. And truly giving life to that last line of our mission statement, which talks about creating the opportunity of a better future for our team members and their families.
Tamla, what was your response to that? And I also wanted to ask you more about how this program is now open to children and their spouses, which I think that Chris just said his program was as well. So I'd love both of you to discuss why that was an important benefit to add.
So a little bit about how our program works. Right now, it's just for our employees right now. And our employees can enroll in a total of 170 plus courses, from high school GED to certifications to associate's degree up through master's. There are just so many things that they can enroll in. And, Guild has actually been kind of a staff augmentation for us as we look to both upskill and reskill our workforce. So you're not just limited to an associate's degree. It could be something, a specialty in terms of, we had a person that's gone through like data analytics. So, data is becoming the way of the future, and being able to understand and decipher what that means is going to be very beneficial to you in your day job. So that helps to reskill them and upskill them to make them more competitive in their current role and roles that they're aspiring to be. And so Guild partners with us to really understand what it is we need from an employer perspective and what it is the employee needs, and through their education coaches help match opportunities and schooling with the needs of the individual as well as the company. So that is just great for us because we don't have to do that internally ourselves. That takes a lot of that administrative burden off of us. So when I think about the employees' families, so we are a very people first organization, and we are guided by those things. And by extension, our employees' families are also our family. And we want to remove a lot of the financial burdens that a lot of our workers have. And, unfiltered, employees will tell us all the time, the thing that I worry about the most is, how am I going to afford to send my child or my children to school? And we kept hearing that unsolicited, because that's the financial burden that really keeps people from thriving. And, we started thinking about this. How can we help as part of our family remove that financial burden for our workforce? And we floated the idea through Guild, and they were like all in to help develop this. We were the first company to do this. So it's not only the employee, their spouses and their dependents, it's their entire family. Mm-hmm. And when you have an entire family invested in your employer, that tends to yield better loyalty, more stickiness, and retention. And so maybe some of the dependents might not have thought about having a career with waste management, but because we're paying for their education, they now have a natural affinity towards the company. And I'm hoping that many of them will come and work for us as well. We are launching the program the end of this year for enrollment in January 2022. And I got to tell you, when we first talked about doing this, for their spouses and their children, they didn't believe it. They're like, okay, you guys say that you're people first. You've shown it during COVID, but you've taken it to another level. And I think, it's going to pay, really big dividends, if you will, in terms of the employees really understanding just how important they are to the ecosystem, to the fabric of our company, not just them, but their families. And so it's going to be a family affair. And I think we're onto something pretty unique.
It is unique. And Tamla, that's a question that I asked my husband just this last weekend at my sister's baby shower, because she's pregnant. And I was like, how much is college going to cost when this kid comes out? Are any of us going to be fortunate enough to be able to put this next generation through college? So I think you guys are onto something over there at Waste Management. Before I go back to Chris, I want to say a few comments that we have in the stream here. Kurt says, education and building your value is a great idea, and having an employer who supports that is great as well. And Keith has a question. Chris, maybe you can answer this one. He said, I'd love to know how you calculate the ROI with this free tuition and education incentives, retention, productivity. How are you both monitoring what this means in terms of your employee base?
Tamla, if you want to take that, or I can take it, it doesn't matter.
So we're new to this, but when we started doing this, we talked about retention. So the ability to retain talent is huge. The ability to attract talent in a very short period of time is also something that we knew that was going to be an ROI. And so studies show that when you have educational programs such as this, your retention goes up at least 25% to the favor, to positive. So retention is one way that we are, really looking to do that. And the attraction component is going to be huge. But I would also say the reskilling, the ability to reskill and upskill at scale and quickly is going to be something that we're going to be measuring as well, because we can't do this alone and do it as fast as we need to without the, partnership of a company such as Guild. And so we're looking at the reskilling and upskilling, and our ability to do that really fast is also going to be one of our ROIs.
I feel like that is such a buzzword, though, when we're talking about the future of work, reskilling, upskilling. You hear them in all these articles about this. What does that actually look like on the ground for you, Chris, at JBS?
So I think I can answer that, maybe bridging back a little to the last question from the listener, and that relates to this idea of ROI. I think we used to seek ROI before we did anything. I think what the pandemic has taught us, at least at JBS, is sometimes doing the right thing is enough justification to do it. And so for us, we actually started an initiative that we call Hometown Strong, where we've invested more than $70 million into the communities in which we operate. Now, a lot of those communities, like I said earlier, are primarily agricultural, rural communities who've been hit extremely hard by the pandemic. So the idea of upskilling talent in rural America may be very different than upskilling talent in an urban center. But I will say this, our program is intentionally very, very broad in terms of what team members or their dependents can pursue for an education. Some of our team members have pursued careers or an associate's degree in liberal arts. Some of our team members have pursued certification in diesel mechanic. Some of them have pursued nursing. Now, you may think, gosh, why does a food company want its team members to pursue nursing or diesel mechanic certification? But the truth is, we aren't doing it to benefit our business. We're doing it to grow the communities in which we operate, in hopes that as those communities continue to grow and become more vibrant with the additional education, they'll become great supporters of our business. But it's a much more tenuous ROI than it used to be before the pandemic.
Well, Chris, let's talk a little bit about affordable housing, because this is an issue that's near and dear to my heart. For those in the stream who care, I'm from Sun Valley, Idaho, and right now we're having an issue. I live in a resort town where a lot of the workers who support the economy can't actually afford to live in our hometown. But this is something that JBS is putting up a program about. How did that come about, and where did you find the resources to be able to do that?
Well, it came about much the way our Better Futures program came about. We identified a need, and we were uniquely positioned to help meet that need. And so at JBS, we've invested a big chunk of that $70 million in the creation of affordable housing in the communities in which we operate, because we think where our team members are able to build a stable home environment, they'll be far more productive when they come to the office, and they'll put roots down in the communities in which they're working and hopefully become an integral part of that community. We actually just the end of the summer announced an additional $20 million as part of our Hometown Strong initiative to go towards simply affordable housing in our communities. And out of that, we have all of these really cool partnerships with local nonprofits, local developers, where we're building homes, selling them at a reduced price to our team members, taking those proceeds, reinvesting them in more affordable housing and perpetuating that cycle. So it's a wild time to be on the cutting edge and doing some of the things that waste management that JBS are doing.
Well, I got to get you in my hometown of Sun Valley, because they are still trying to figure this out. The mayor is saying that everyone should just open up their houses so that workers can just live in open bedrooms within a small town, because they cannot figure this out. Tamla, question here for you, maybe from Ron. He's asking, what can small businesses, entrepreneurs who maybe don't have the resources of a waste management or a GBS do to solve this problem? Any tips?
What I would tell you is that now it's more incumbent upon the employer to work with the employee to co-create solutions. So what may be a solution for us at Waste Management may not be a solution for everybody, but it's important that you listen to the needs of your workforce and help co-create solutions that are, feasible for you to engage in. It could be flexible work. So instead of working your normal shifts, 8 to 5 or, whatever the case may be, what are the needs of the employee? If you can provide flexible work arrangements so they can have other things, have the opportunity to care for their children or whatever, just looking at co-creating what that future of work is going to look like. Gone are the days when you can compartmentalize, this is work and this is life, because employees are bringing their life to work, right? And so it's blending in. And so I would just encourage all companies to really engage in co-creating a workforce of the future with the worker that they probably would have never imagined before. And I think COVID has really shown the art of what's possible. A lot of us probably wouldn't be working hybrid or working remote or, having these different type of scheduling were it not for COVID, but COVID has shown the art of what's possible. And so I would encourage all of us to take advantage of the learnings that we have taken from COVID and create a better work environment for our workforce by listening to them and co-creating opportunities for them. And whatever that co-creation may look like, it may be different for smaller companies than it is for big.
Well, I'd be remiss not to ask two HR professionals with such a legendary career on the show right now. I think just a lot of people have questions about how they can hire top talent right now. So Chris, I'll start with you. What have been some of your biggest findings?
We find today that everybody has a pretty good resume. And in most cases, it's legitimate. I think for us, we are leaning far heavier today on work experience and work references than ever before. We value, and Tamla said it related to what can a small company do, be an employer of choice, treat people well. People who demonstrate the ability to lead people, be successful, and have left good things in their wake are still incredibly rare and important to find. And so we're leaning very heavily today on references, far more than we ever did before, which might seem counterintuitive. As it gets more competitive, you think you've got to be less selective, but we found the more competitive that it gets, the right people seem to identify with us and us with them pretty easily if we really dig into their work history.
Tamla, do you agree? Check those references, or what's going on your end?
I got to tell you, for us, it's really being able to articulate our EVP, because they have so many options and what makes WM the employer of choice when they can go other places, right? So I go back to those 6 tenets that we use at Waste Management. The culture, is it a culture that they want to be a part of? The colleagues, the people that they work with and they work for, is it something that is engaging? Do they feel valued? Do they feel appreciated? Do they feel heard? Compensation or the total rewards, are those things that are important to them? Then you think about career, not just what we say, but what we show. And do you have people that represent the art of what's possible from a career perspective? Then the content of their job, are they doing meaningful work? Do they have the autonomy and flexibility that they need and that they require? And then lastly, there's a huge focus on not just profitable company, but sleek good company. Do you have a company that is contributing to leaving the world better than they found it? And we have been very intentional about articulating our EVP. And depending on where you are in your career, one of those or two of those levers could be the thing that's most important to you, but really understanding what makes us different and why should employees choose us over other companies when they have so many options ahead of them. So our EVP is our selling point.
Well, if I'm an employee looking for a job, I'd like to work for either of you wonderful people. And I see from the stream, everyone is just so glad that you spent this time with us. Simone saying co-creation is key, employer and employee working together. That should be the new normal. Kathleen says, so impressed with the WM, Waste Management debt-free offer. Tim says, I think the hiring challenge is separate and quite distinct from the retention challenge. And that is a topic for another day, as you both know. I mean, I know just as well as you do that's a huge question. But Tamala and Chris, I so appreciate you guys taking the time to be with us here on LinkedIn News Live.
Thank you so much for having us.
All right, I'm seeing a great discussion here in the feed. So if you want to continue the conversation, be sure to check out the news module to the right of your LinkedIn feed. Or if you're in mobile, you can click into the search box. And back here with you on Thursday, my co-host, Nina, will be here talking with the former mayor of San Juan, Puerto Rico, Carmen Yulin Cruz, about the economic future of the U.S. territory. That's at the LinkedIn News page at 3 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. I'm Caroline Fairchild. Thank you so much for joining us.